What's up, everybody? I'm Stan, and welcome to Detail Comics, where we go over comics in detail. It's August 28th at 7:59 in the morning, so that's time for another Comics and Coffee. So, if you're not familiar with Comics and Coffee is my weekly, everyday show. Got a Justice Studio light, where basically I go over what's coming up this week, a couple ideas, a couple theories, any kind of reviews, any kind of news and stuff like that. It's a relatively new show, so I'm not really sure how I'm going to flesh out the format, but I hope you stick along so that way we can kind of get an idea where we're going. First thing that I want to do is the Boston Comic-Con video. It's in the works, it's just one of those things that I'm probably going to be releasing this week. What I have to do is I actually have to work today from noon until 7, so that kind of puts a damper on how I can put together videos and whatnot. So that's going to change how that kind of schedule rolls out. But I do have all the assets. Like you can see here, this is Hyperion number 6. So I've got all the assets for this week's preview picks and getting started, plus I've got a few ideas for what I want to do. I want to do a follow-up to the Marvel Now 2.0 video that I put out last week, just because I touched on every single book in this thing, and this is ridiculous. There's so much stuff going on in here, but what it doesn't take into account is it doesn't take into account ongoing titles that are going to continue to go through on their storyline that aren't in there. So there are some people that are wondering, what's happening with Old Man Logan? What's happening with Nighthawk? What's happening with Hyperion? What's happening with all these other books that are in the Marvel Universe? They're introducing 60 books over the course of the next 3 months. After September, once October, November, December, they're introducing a ton of new books. But what happens to their old titles? And a lot of them are still there. So we'll do a rundown on that and then probably give you a little bit more clear-cut breakdown on why books are doing what they are. If you did watch the Marvel Now 2.0 video, you saw that I was just hey, I'm really surprised that Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur gets issue number 13 because that book sells less than 10,000 copies a month. Not for any particular reason other than the fact that, people aren't reading it. That is one of those situations where, the top level books from Dark Horse and other publishers that aren't Image, when they get 10 to 15,000, that's a huge book for them. But for Marvel, the big book that they sell is somewhere usually between 60 and 100,000. And if you're talking about an event tie-in book where everybody's picking them up, maybe it's 120, 150, up to 250,000. Original copies of Amazing Spider-Man, I think Amazing Spider-Man 700, I think what sold 500,000 copies. Star Wars number 1, when it got reintroduced, that was a 1 million copy kind of book. There were so many printings of it. But then you've got books like Rebirth, DC Rebirth, the Batman books. 16 books last month, well, not last month, but June. 16 books in June crossed 100,000 books. And you think about it, there's only 80,000 regular readers that subscribe to a comic book, and so the industry standard, which is Batman, usually they set that average, or Diamond sets that average at 100,000 books, and everything else is a ratio based off of that. So if you're talking about a book that sells less than 10% of what the industry marker is, wow, why do you keep printing that book? And ultimately they kind of give some hints saying that Moon Girl, Lunella is the smartest person in the Marvel Universe, smarter than Reed Richards, smarter than Valeria Richards, who is smarter than Reed Richards, even though she's 3 or 4 years old, if you read the Fantastic Four and the Future Foundation books at all. So they're obviously priming her for something, so if you're looking for speculation, maybe look at some of those if she's going to play any kind of big spin on the Marvel Universe, simply because if she's going to be introduced in a big way, and she makes an impact that's, going to get a little bit of news, you're going to get a little spike in speculation. You might be able to get a quick flip on that, but that's not a practice that I'm into, so whatever on that. So I'm probably going to do a follow-up 2.0 video on that, go a little bit more detail into, production numbers and those kind of things. Basically what books are coming in, what books are going out, because Hyperion just got canceled. It's not in any of the future solicitations, so this is actually the last issue. So if you want to pick it up, it's your last chance to read Hyperion, because it's the end of the first story arc, or the end of the first book, really, so check that out. We're probably we're getting close to where like the CW is reintroducing their shows. The new Netflix shows are going to be dropping relatively soon. Well, at least Luke Cage is. We've got Doctor Strange, which is coming out in a little over a month. And that's going to be pretty awesome. So there's going to be all kinds of different things. I didn't have the chance to go see Suicide Squad, so I'm going to have to put my movie review on hold until possibly this coming week, where I can go see it on Wednesday night and then put a video together. So that's going to have to be held off. And then, like as far as everything else that's kind of working its way, on a personal note, I wrote my first complete comic book script. So, like I had this, I've been plotting out a story. I've been plotting out and writing, various issues and pages, so that way I could have like a solid 8 to 12 page book, like a maxi series. So I was doing all the panel designations, the art descriptions, all the narration and conversation, the dialogue parts of the book, and I've got this kind of set up in my mind. But I realized after doing a lot of research that it's not the easiest thing to write a 200-page maxi series when it's your first go around into trying to break into comics and comic publishing and things like that. So pretty much where I'm at is that's on the shelf. In the meantime, one of the best things that I found as part of the advice is that what you have to do is you have to tell compelling scenes and build compelling scene structure and be able to convey story and emotion in a short period of time, because an issue in itself is like a self-contained story. So if you're talking about a 32-page book, you've got all the ads, so you're talking 22, 24 pages without going oversize of actual panels and storytelling. So you've got to be able to tell a story inside that, but to do that, essentially, you should be able to tell a story in a third of that, a fraction. So I've been kind of putting this initiative forward to myself, and like yesterday was the first day that I really acted on it. So on Saturdays, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do what I'm going to call for myself Script Saturday, where I'm going to take a concept and I'm going to create a story and write a script between 5 and 8 pages, including panel layouts, narration, art descriptions, and things like that, so that way an artist could take it, or if I really hone my artistry craft, I could take it and then convert it into a story, so that way I can start building a collection of stories. And one of my friends, she's awesome. She's an editor for like more traditional type stuff. She does like copy editing for advertisements. She does book editing and newspaper. So she's got kind of like that keen eye for like trimming a little bit of fat here and there and creating different structures and whatnot. So basically, she's going to help me develop in that part, and I really hope that she's enjoying it, because she is going to be a huge help in helping me refine and kind of distill everything about these potential stories. But the first one's really good. I like the story matter. I like how it develops, and then hopefully what I'm going to do is I'm going to build like a whole list of all these concepts that I'm just going to turn like single phrases and sentences, and I'm going to turn them into entire stories and kind of touch on different genres. So, like this one's going to be sci-fi, this one's going to be tech-based, this one's going to be the future, this one's going to be in the past, it's going to be historically accurate, it's going to be, pure fiction. It's going to be drawn in different emotional ways, so that way there's a lot of versatility and you kind of flesh out your skill set. So if anybody out there is interested in writing comics, I've got some interesting ideas on that. I don't really have a whole heck of a lot of experience, as evidenced by what I'm doing right now, but it's one of those things where if you've got a passion, I really want to be creative. This is, looking at this camera and talking to you guys out there in the world, that's one way for me to kind of express that passion, kind of build that up, and I'm looking for other outlets, because my normal job doesn't really have a whole lot of creativity and passion in it. I get to meet very interesting people. I get to talk to people about things that they're passionate about, but I want to be able to... One of the things that I found at Boston Comic Con is that when I went up to a creator and I got to tell them what their work meant to me, it felt very rewarding for me. And then when I saw people receive that and it felt very, rewarding and fulfilling to them, it's like, cool. That's why I do this. This is why I create these kind of things. Of course, a paycheck's great, but knowing that it impacted somebody and that it touched somebody and that somebody felt like that work that I put out into the world mattered, God, that must be so fulfilling. So instead of going to Boston Comic Con and seeing the people that are creators, I want to kind of start down the process of becoming one of those creators that people come to see. So that'd be pretty cool, and I want to kind of dive headfirst into that. And the minimum that I can make for a commitment, is writing one script a week, and whether that takes me one night or it takes me 3 nights or it takes me 5 nights. Once I build up a catalog of stories and start working with artists and start working on 10 to 20 to 50 to 100, and there's a lot of space to go from there. So this is the ground floor of me trying to break into the comics world. So I invite you guys to follow along. So that's going to be great. As of right now, that's pretty much it for this week's Comics and Coffee. Last week was Starbucks. This is Dunkin' Donuts. This is obviously worse. But I haven't been up for that long, so I'll take what I can get. So next week we'll probably have a little bit more structure in terms of the news regarding comic books, how they're rolling out, looking into the future of what's going to be coming out and where things are going to kind of go. Might get into a little bit of DC Rebirth theory and whatnot. So stick around. It's gonna be fun. So if you guys have any questions, comments, anything that you want to chat about, hit me up in the comments down below. As always, if you like what you see, hit the like button, and don't forget to subscribe. So that way you can get more of me rambling into a camera, talking about things that we both enjoy. So that's always fun.